Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Glenn and Adrian's Rock Talk. We are here today to talk about Pink Floyd's first album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, and also give a little bit of insight on Syd Barrett, their first creative force, the one that everybody was kind of centered around when they first got the band together. So, Adrian, you and I both have known about this album for many years. I remember that this was the first thing that I had that had any Syd Barrett on it, was the Nice Pair Pink Floyd compilation double album, which has Piper at the Gates of Dawn, save one track where they have an alternate version, and Saucer Full of Secrets. So the Floyd's first two albums. And I just learned today that Saucer Full of Secrets, Sid actually played on three tracks. I had thought it was two, but it's actually three. He played the really eerie sounding guitar on Remember a Day, the second track, and then he
I
played
remember
guitar. Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's him doing the and all that, and set the controls for the Heart of the Sun. He's on that one, and so is David Gilmour. That's the only track that all five members of the Floyd ever appeared on together. And then Sid is also on Jug Band Blues. Piper, as you know, was the first one. I believe this was the one that you used to spin a
First
lot. I
album.
think you got this after you heard my copy of The Nice Pair.
Nice pair. It's very significant that you mentioned a nice pair, actually, because that was the first version that I heard. It has the Amagama version of Astronomy Domine on a nice pair.
That's right. Yeah.
This is the actual album. I was so pleasantly surprised when I put this on the turntable and put it on Astronomy Domine. It just sounded completely different. It was
Mm,
incredibly trippy.
yeah, really nice studio version.
Yeah.
Yep, and they've got the guy in the front that I know is on the Floyd's crew. I can't remember his name, but they had him screaming through a megaphone, just various things that may have had something to do with what air traffic controllers would say, or I don't remember, but he had an actual script that he was using, and he was just yelling through the megaphone, and that's what that is in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, even when I heard that first part of it, I knew I was in for something really good when I had the headphones on and I was
Yeah,
listening to the studio version of Astronomy Domine for the first time. Yeah, I thought it sounded interesting. I was listening to it in mono for the other night,
mhm.
probably for the first time in I don't know, a couple of decades or something like that.
Okay. Was that part of the deluxe
Yeah,
edition?
it was. I actually have two versions. Uh, this is a deluxe edition here.
Oh, okay.
This has two discs. Disc one is mono, disc two is stereo.
Okay.
And the other one, this is the super deluxe edition. This
Mhm.
has the two discs I just mentioned, and it has a third one with B sides and singles, and
Mm,
there's a nice alternate version of Matilda Mother on there.
nice. Very good.
Yeah.
Does that have stuff like apples and oranges then?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's
Okay.
got apples and
Eddie
oranges.
and a current bun, Arnold
Yeah.
Lane. Yeah.
All the standards.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. For those that don't know, there are singles that also came out around that time that are not on the albums that you must hear. So cool. So you see, that neatly brings us to our next track, which is the first of several tracks that feel like little stories that Sid has made for us.
Lucifer Sam, Siam Cat, and
I was going to say, was the cat actually transferring messages, subliminal messages to Sid?
it's a good song anyway. I like it.
Yeah, it's very catchy. I think it could have been a single itself.
Yeah, I kind of wonder why they didn't try to push that as a single.
Maybe
It's
it's
probably
because,
the record company's idea.
yeah, they were still kind of an unknown at that point, you know,
Yeah.
and so they probably had no idea.
Mhm. So I guess that will bring us to the third track on the album, Matilda Mother.
That's right.
One I just mentioned on the Super Deluxe 3 CD version, there's a alternate version of Matilda Mother, which I was really quite impressed and surprised to hear just a few years ago, actually, for the first time.
Oh yeah, that's right. They came out with some of the early years. They came out with a whole early years box set that was
Oh,
massive, and they split it apart. Yeah, it's nice.
yeah, yeah. There's the action early years.
There was a massive set which had everything from I don't know, 65 or something to 72. And then they chunked it out to like a year or a couple of years, like 65, 66, 67. And yeah, I mean, they also had video, but I mean, the fact is you can go on YouTube and find any of those videos now. Pink Floyd themselves have often put them up. Pink Floyd has a channel there. So, and it's worth seeing. There's some pretty interesting stuff there from the City era, even in studio.
Anyway, yeah, when I heard the alternate version, it explained a lot of stuff I heard on the version that was released. For example, that edit at the end of the keyboard solo, and it jumps right into the third verse.
Oh, right. Yeah. Mhm.
That edit. I mean, you can hear what happened between those edits,
Right.
if you know what I'm talking about.
Sure. Yeah. That's always been a jarring one. That's like the one bad edit on the album.
Yeah, so that Matilda Mother has always just been a favorite of mine too.
It's very otherworldly,
Yeah,
and
very much so.
it's a nice world, too. So
Yep.
for the most part, it's a nice place to be. Good place to spectate. I bet you'd like to people watch in that, in the Matilda Mother universe.
You could say the same thing about Flaming too, which is the
Yeah.
next track after that. That's also a nice little
Yeah,
trippy.
it's like the next door neighbor,
Watching buttercups come to life.
All these songs, by the way, have really good BBC versions. Again, find a way to hear them. Yeah, so we had Flaming.
How R Talk H. For some reason, I thought I read somewhere that it was the name of a either an officers club or some type of army thing.
I actually just found it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it says Talk H was the Army signaler's code for TH, which represented Talbot House, a club where officers and enlisted men were equals. And it later became an interdenominational Christian fellowship organization. So,
Oh,
yeah. But yeah, so that's what it was. Everybody's an equal, and it's like the officers club where everybody doesn't have to be the officer. It's all, everybody's the same. So and it's stylized. It looks like the emblem of Talk H was an oil lamp, and they called it a power Talk H, but power like the word power, not power,
yeah.
like Roger did.
I remember. I think I was coming home from a party one time, and I'm making these noises that it's like I'd make the monkey like noises.
That was the first Floyd track where the people actually sounded. What are they doing? It was the first thing, like the Furry Animals track on
Oh yeah,
a picked on Umaguma, a Roger
yeah.
Waters sound effect track which sounds like a bunch of rodents with tools and like talking to each other in a mine or something, coal mine or something. I don't know what's going on. Maybe somebody recognized the song. Said,
Oh,
oh, that kid. But I like that track. It's their first instrumental track to show up in their catalog at that point, and it's credited to the entire band. I think Roger may have been an instigator of it. I'm not sure. I kind of think so, based on the weird noises, because Roger strikes me as the weird noise guy. Even he does the same thing during "Careful with That Axe, Eugene." If you see him in the Pompeii movie from 1972, he's going, oh, and and making these
he can
noises.
do that. He can like scream and
Yeah,
use an awful lot of energy doing it, but he can make that sound.
Absolutely. And I mean, you even hear him doing it through the wall, you know, so it's a characteristic of his. So that's why I think it probably came from him to begin with. Let's play something, guys. Boom, 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 or whatever. But anyway, it's a good track.
Speaking
It
of
actually,
wonder, there's the next song,
oh yeah.
originally called "Take Up My Stethoscope and Walk," I
Oh
believe,
yeah.
instead of "Take Up Thy Stethoscope and Walk."
I wonder why it got changed.
I don't know. I think you might have told me that actually. You saw an album or something. It's like
Could
one of
be.
the original Piper albums.
Very
And
possibly.
had, yeah, it had a different song lineup on it. I think it didn't have Astronomy Domine. I think it
Mhm.
might have had "See Emily Play" on it.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I think you're talking about the American version. The American version of Piper, um, it had they actually took three songs off. They took Bike off. I'm not sure what else. Maybe some of the things on the second side, and they put "See Emily Play" on it. So instead of 11 songs, there were nine.
Well, I thought that I thought I heard that it was originally "Take Up My Stethoscope and Walk." Anyway, on the record, it's printed "Take Up Thy Stethoscope and Walk." I don't know why that's such a tongue twister for me. I like it. I think it's decent enough.
It turns out it's supposed to take place in a hospital, and the patient is the one singing. So that's why you hear "Doctor, Doctor" through it and all that.
Yeah, that was kind of a mysterious song to me in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
That's Roger Waters' very first writing credit, solo writing credit. He got better, though.
Yeah.
This wasn't a bad track,
It
but
was a while before I even caught on the Doctor and Doctor bit. I thought for a while the guy was just going, "I'm
oh
in the
yeah,
play and head."
yeah, yeah. I mean, you never know, given what just had played before it. You know.
Yeah, exactly. We flip over the album.
Yeah, we'll flip it, and we'll note Interstellar Overdrive, their first group masterpiece. Uh,
Uh,
that starts off side two.
and it was a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece.
That's another one that sounded really good in its mono form.
Yeah, I noticed it sounded a little different.
Yeah, yeah. Things come in at a different time. You know,
Uh,
they start with this thing that just goes down. It's almost like Astronomy Dawn and Way in the same way. Probably Sid came up with that particular riff, but
I think you might have gotten the riff from there was a popular song that had the same beginning. You know,
oh,
it went ba 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 ba, and
I
then
don't know which one it was,
uh,
but that's interesting.
I think that was the one part that he didn't completely write, but I mean,
Mhm.
he made it his own.
So they play that four times up front, and everybody's coming in, and it rocks pretty good. And then it goes into about 8 minutes of improv that literally tempos stop. You know, sometimes there's no drumming at all, and it gets very flowy, and the instruments interact with each other, and it's kind of a confusing place. But it's like the whole gang's together while they're confused. You know, like
Uh,
you know. So traveling through whatever this is, and that's the you know. So the name Interstellar Overdrive is fairly apt for a name.
Very appropriate.
Yeah, and then they come back. Nick Mason goes, brrr, he does a drum roll that gets louder and louder and louder. It comes up, and then they all must have done an eye contact in the studio, and then they, boom, doom,
Ba,
doom,
ba,
doom.
ba, 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 ba.
They reprise it at the end, and then
I
bring
might
it
have,
in for a landing. They slow
yeah.
it down and bring it in for a landing, and it's pretty cool.
On the stereo version, I always loved the end of that song, the stereo version,
Oh,
because
for the
they do
panning,
something with a mixer, like
the panning, yeah, of the mix of
and
you know
yeah,
the
it's
tracks,
kind
yeah.
of like
Yeah, and you only get one pass. The song's 9 minutes long, so you're at the end part, and you got to get it right. Otherwise, you know, if you screw it up, you have to start all over again. This was back in the analog days. Can't
oh
just,
yeah,
you know. That's the one nice of effect from the stereo version. The one thing that I would
Yeah.
I hate to lose. It's nice to have both versions, the mono and the stereo. That one ends and just kind of starts crumbling away, but then all of a sudden we're into the next song, which is the
Doom,
gnome.
doom, doom, doom.
I want to tell you a story.
About a little man, if I can.
One named Grimble Grumble.
Yeah, it's another one of those story songs. But you know, in total, I think we've got 7 or 8 of those on this album. Um,
Probably.
3 on the front, and then yeah, if you count Bike, then it's 7. Um, I guess Bike kind of works too in the same way. But they create these worlds,
Mhm.
these songs, and then they tell the story in the world.
So that's always a fun tune. It's entertaining to hear bootlegs of it too. People.
Mhm.
Or there was this one recording I remember hearing a lot, where there are people in the background.
Mm.
There's
Yeah, they
and
they
then
have
one day, and then the background goes,
Hooray!
hooray!
Yeah, that used to make me laugh because I wasn't expecting it. You know, it's a
Yeah.
it's 2 people in the studio version,
Hooray!
and it's like an entire room of people in the BBC version. And then that brings us to the I Ching
I Ching,
inspired.
chapter 24.
Yes, okay. I Ching track.
And I've read chapter 24 of the I Ching. It's called Mastering Pitfalls, at least in the copy that I have. I don't immediately see much of a connection between that and the song, but except that when you hear the song, it sort of you start going into hexagrams and triads and stuff like that. The movement is accomplished in 6 stages, and each I Ching symbol has 6 lines, each of which are either broken or intact. Sort of these hexagrams, there's 6 lines that are kind of stacked on top of each other, and then for each configuration, there's a name for it. Yeah, as I said, I tried to read the I Ching several times, and it's a very challenging read. But
Okay.
you can sort of, having read parts of it, I can sort of identify, some correlations to the I Ching in
Okay.
lyrics. So,
Well, it's funny. The sound they got for that song was kind of Eastern in a way.
yeah,
The percussive elements and the organ, the way the organ plays.
yeah, an organ sounded like a Vox organ or a
Yeah,
farfisa or something like
I
that.
believe he was using a Vox in the early days.
Change, return, success. Going.
Yeah, so pretty spooky song in a way. You got all these fairy tales and these cool jams, rock jams on this album, and then this comes along, and it's like, whoa, okay, even this is different from everything else. So
Yeah, it doesn't strike me as spooky for some reason. But,
I think I see the whole album as spooky. That's why, just a little bit spooky.
oh, okay.
In a good, I mean, it works. I like it, but
Yeah,
it's kind of an eerie place.
yeah, there's some eeriness. Chapter 24, after that, it's a scarecrow.
That's right.
And one thing that I used to love hearing at the end of that song, the 12-string guitar, for some reason. I really
Yeah, no, I like that
started
too.
listening to that. I really liked it. I also liked it because I had a 12-string acoustic guitar. I still have it, actually, the same guitar.
Nice.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I always like that too.
Yeah, I always wanted to record that song so that I could play my 12-string on it.
Well, it's never too late.
It's never too late.
Yeah, I noticed Nick Mason's role on these songs, these last 3 songs, um, especially Chapter 24, is very, very minimal.
Mhm.
Like, I think he does some gongs or something in Chapter 24, but that's it. And he does woodblock, I think, in
Symbols, woodblock, and scarecrow.
yeah, I think it's just a woodblock. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe 2 woodblocks. So
Yeah,
very
I think
minimal.
it was. I think it was like 2 tracks of playing wood blocks or something.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
It
But
sounded
it
it
was
sounded
still,
kind of like a horse like walking down the
oh
street, walking down the street.
yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, he's also the tape loop guy in the band. Nick Mason. Um, for those that don't know, all of those loops you heard in Dark Side of the Moon, especially in the beginning of the album or during Run, On the Run, that's all Nick Mason. He likes doing those.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know
he's always when you hear tape loops, that's always Nick Mason. I've been mad for years, stuff like that.
that.
So the Scarecrow song, just the way they did it, it's so unusual because there's no bass either in the beginning of the song. It comes in right at the end where the 12 string is that you mentioned.
Guitar is,
Yeah,
yes.
so it's a really unusual song, but it's very affecting. I've always liked that song. With
Okay, so that
that's
brings us to the last song on the album,
mhm, is
Bike.
Bike. Again, a Barrett track, and this time, instead of being a storytelling, it's more of a narrative of a guy. I've got the bike. You can ride it if you like. It's got a
Skitter bell that rings and things to make it look good.
Give it to you if I could, but I
I
borrowed it.
borrowed it. Yes. And the whole thing about, and there's a line about the mouse, a mouse, I name him Gerald and all that. And, any other band, you'd think, oh, that's affected psychedelia right there, talking about a mouse named Gerald. That's just silliness. But in this context with this guy on this record, you believe him. It's like, okay, he really believes there's a mouse there named Gerald talking to him. So just had to put that out there like that.
Never old, but he's a good mouse.
Yeah.
I used to think it was just because I grew up in America watching cartoons on TV. I
Oh,
used to think it was a reference to Tom and Jerry.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
You could maybe be forgiven for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, so
I mean
I think it
that's
became a psychedelic trope to talk about stuff like that, but it wasn't at that time. So Sid was way out there. I mean, for those who don't know the full story of Sid, he started off perfectly normal, extremely creative, highly artistic, making these incredibly original songs for the time. Everybody's copied him afterwards. You hear what he sounded like now as just a normal thing you've probably heard. But at the time, no, that's not what it was like. It was pretty unique. Um, but he hung out with some people or lived with some people that had no qualms about just dosing him every single day with LSD for weeks at a time, which is really unfortunate. And
yeah,
eventually it broke him and led to his exit from the band. Um, and that's kind of the sad part of it. There's plenty to that story if you ever want to look into it. There's plenty of sources online to take a look at his life and to listen to his solo albums, which are really fractured sounding, but interesting nonetheless.
yeah.
Um, but this album was his crown achievement, the Piper album. He wrote everything except Take Up Thy Stethoscope and the two instrumental jams. You know, so yeah, definitely a worthy figure to study in rock music history.
Definitely.
So what do you rate this album at the end?
Uh, 4 3/4, something like that. I mean, I don't really, I've heard Bike enough times, and sometimes, I mean, to be honest, I often skip over it, even though I really like the ending to that song,
Hmm.
where they run up the stairs and they set off all these alarm clocks. So
Uh-huh. Right. And bicycle chains. I'm pretty sure there were some bikes in the studio and they were just cranking it like this with the mic over here.
yeah,
You can hear the chains.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Uh,
okay. I think I'd probably give it about a 4.5.
yeah,
Very, very, very good album. Groundbreaking, innovative, original. Although today maybe you wouldn't know that just because it became so, a lot of its tricks and interesting qualities kind of got co-opted and used by other artists.
Yeah,
Both,
both got cliched, some of them.
yeah, not just in the 60s, but when in the 80s, um, when a lot of bands came back that were doing kind of this post this psychedelia, neo psychedelia stuff. Um, a lot of them really, I mean, Robin Hitchcock basically was a Sid Barrett for the 80s. Uh, I know a lot of people. T Rex loved him. David Bowie loved Sid Barrett, and even covered "See Emily Play."
Oh,
Yeah, so
I
um,
hear that.
yeah, and I mean, it wasn't just so much just the music, but also the way. I mean, Sid was pretty way out there looking guy, but stylish most of the time, until he really lost it. I think that helped inspire T Rex, who was had the same management at the time as the Floyd.
Oh, I didn't realize there was a connection between the
Yeah,
Floyd and T-Rex.
yeah, same managers. Took up T Rex in '67, got him his first records deal, I think. T
Oh,
Rex was really a lot more like Sid, but he emulated Sid. It wasn't a matter of they both were kind of well. T Rex has his own good qualities for certain as an artist, but he was highly influenced by Sid. As soon
yeah.
as he saw Sid, he made some changes. All right, well, folks, thank you very much for joining us on this new trip down Sid Lane for us. And we hope we've inspired you to go check out some of his music. Of course, check out the playlist. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing, if you haven't yet, it's probably about there. Look down, you'll see a red button. Um, and maybe click the bell too, so that you know whenever we put up a new video. Put a like if you really liked it. Leave a comment telling us if you want us to check something out in particular. We like a good challenge. So, and with that, I think we'll just bid you a great day. Happy Floyd listening, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
See you later.